All right, welcome back. Good show. Looking forward to it today. It's Jim Beebe and Lucas Loring with Athlete Builder. Very lucky to have Nick Urencar in the studio today. Nick, a little about him, 5 times CrossFit Games athlete, been in the strength and conditioning world 20 years, if you can believe it. Looking at his face, he's actually 40 years old. We all called bullshit, but he swears up and down. BS and exercise science, played football, homegrown kid at Indiana State. So I first met Nick 2012 CrossFit Crown Point. I'm barely into my CrossFit journey with CrossFit Naptown. Jared and Peter tell me there's a competition up there. And I go, well, I don't really know what I'm doing, but how bad could it be? And I'll just go up there and learn some stuff and see how I do. And I go up there and there's Nick Urencar. And turns out when I found out he was at Indiana State, one of my other friends, Josh Jones, in the strength and conditioning world, was from Indiana State. So I had worked with him a little bit and started talking to Nick, and I come up to Nick finally, and I found out, well, he's like a games athlete. He's doing everything well. He's smoking the whole competition, this local comp thing. And there's an event that has pull-ups in it, and all I could do was strict pull-ups at a time. And if you can only do strict, you can't do many in one of those WODs. And I go, hey, Nick, can you teach me how to kip real quick? And he's like, no, like not real quick, but I'll give you some pointers. Anyways, I got my ass thumped in that WOD. Nick ended up winning the whole thing again. And that's when I first met him. So, Nick, thanks for being on the show. Fond memory of me, my first CrossFit event, and meeting you. So I really appreciate you being here.
Oh, I appreciate that. I am definitely 40, and 2012. Wow. Like, it's crazy to think that was 12 years ago.
Right. Long time. That day, the first WOD was go run a half mile and then get as many deadlifts as you can and time remaining. And it was some terrible number, like 275 or 315 for max deadlifts. And Nick's just cranking out sets of 10 and 15 just over and over again. And I'm like,
what you didn't know is that was like, so it's funny in I think in sports in general, sometimes what others look at as strength, like that was a giant weakness of mine. If you would have put me against the top guys, I would have got dead last. So I think up until 2014, I would hammer deadlifting 3 or 4 times a week, just building up the capacity. Like the top strength was there, but the ability to just keep lifting was a huge struggle. So for you to say that to me in 2012 is a compliment, but ultimately most guys would be like, yeah, I would have got him.
Right. It's all relative.
I was comparing myself to other elite games guys. So everything I did that was my
standard.
Yep.
Yeah. A little bit more about Nick. One time owned 2 different CrossFit gyms in the South Bend area. He has a couple, he's into real estate with some rentals.
Yep.
Now he's sold the gyms. He's a mentor with entrepreneurs, other business owners. And you might find him with the Zeus Method. That's his online platform for working with athletes, all different shapes and sizes. There's nutrition. There's 10, 12 daily programs he has there, plus 40 other programs you can download or ebooks. So whether you're looking for bodybuilding or the one that we were talking about at my gym today, working out with just the barbell, or more endurance focus or CrossFit focus or Olympic lifting, he has all these tools, and that's his platform. So if you're looking for him, Zeus Method, but no longer running the gym business, he's now running that online platform. Nick, if you could, just talk a little bit about your time running the gyms and how that all went.
Well, I think that if you go back to pre-2012, I think I started, always been into fitness, was personal training at like 18 in college. Just wanted to be in the gym and felt like that was an easy way to be there. Eventually, when I found CrossFit in 2009, I was working full-time job and I was like, dang, like this is legit to be able to do this. So I kept training, and the research I did, everybody owned a gym who was competing and was really good. So I thought, well, I guess that's what you do. You own a gym. So I just started talking about it. I just started saying like, one day I want to own a gym. One day I want to own a gym. And some people at a gym were like, well, you're like the most knowledgeable person I've ever been around. Like the way that you teach, the way, like, we want to help you. And it was a older couple who basically invested in me and helped me get the first gym up and running, beginning of 2012. So that was kind of the start, was, people always ask, like, how'd you start? And I'm like, I put my toe in and I was drowning, you know, because once you actually like commit to it, there's no really like going back. You burn the boats and you go on. So that was my first start in the business. And then, as I got farther into it, I realized you kind of have to scale in some way to really make a living out of this, because the what was told to you from other gym owners was like, you're in the gym, you're the coach, you do this stuff. And it was like, but that's not really a great business model. How can we change this? And it wasn't really being done. So I basically was like, got to get a second gym. So I opened up I basically bought a gym that was closing in 2016. And at that time too, I had been dabbling online, and I started the online platform Zeus Method in 2016. Basically I was like, I mean, people know me all over. I got a decent following. Might as well try this. So started that. And then the second gym did not go well. And ended up struggling, was not the face of it, tried to have it ran by other people. And I didn't want to step in when it needed me. And we ended up having it for 5 years and then kind of just closed it. Didn't even really, we sold it to another gym. It wasn't a CrossFit gym. But ultimately it was more of a liquidation type sale.
Gotcha.
And then, so then, I mean, I don't know what else detail. There's a lot that happened inside those times. I just sold my first original gym in August of 23.
So the first one now is the last one out, and relatively recently.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like 6 months.
So how do you manage those two businesses? And then you're married, have kids, and then the volume of training to be, elite level athlete. Like, what's that look like?
So I think that's a tough question, because it's kind of like, you know, when somebody is overweight and they come to you and they're like, how'd you do it? And you're like, I've never been overweight. I don't know. Like, truly, like, people, that's kind of like the throwback. But the truth is, like, I found CrossFit, like the competitive side, 1 month before my first daughter was born. So I was married. I was wanting to open a business, move somewhere, and my wife was 8 months pregnant, and I decided I wanted to go all in on this CrossFit thing.
Jeez.
So had a baby 1 month later. I actually went home from the hospital to pick up clothes, and I went in the basement and I did a workout, and then I grabbed the clothes and I went back to the hospital.
Oh my gosh. So
as far as I'd say what I learned real quick was it's not about, I think most people want to go into the gym and they're like, all right, I need an hour or 2 hours. I've got this session, right? I have it written down. I got to follow it as is, A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, whatever it is. And you've got to go through it. And what I realized was I've got 7 minutes. What can I do? Mm-hmm. So I call them these pockets. And inside of our days, we have lots of pockets and we can do whatever we want with them. And most now we scroll or we turn on the TV, and a pocket can be 2 minutes. Yeah. It can be 10 minutes. It can be an hour. And some days it's the entire day. And what I learned is whenever there was a pocket, I used it wisely. So most of my training happened in these 10, really 5 to 15 minute windows. Kid would go down for a nap and I might have 30 minutes. I'd wake up at 4 a.m. to do a workout before the baby would wake up. And then I would work out at lunch as long as I possibly could. Then I'd come home, baby would go to bed. I'd work out, be with my wife. She'd go to bed. I'd work out. So it was very much like when you care enough and you're that passionate, you will find a way to make it work, even if it's not ideal. And the thing is that's the only thing I knew. So when I see people who they're like, oh, I can't make it to the gym for the hour, I'm like, but why?
Right.
And they're like, why? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many excuses and none of them are really worth listening to.
No, especially in 2 minutes, I can get you laying on the ground, gasping and wishing you wouldn't have been around me for 2 minutes.
I don't want to do that either.
Yeah.
What I take from that though is a number of things. One, you had 3 priorities in your family, your business, and your training. And then those are the 3 things. I don't want to put words in your mouth. Those are the things that you loved. everything else you liked, and everything else, and everything that you liked went away.
Yep. And I would say
you only have time for the things that you love because there was no other margin.
And the truth is, when I opened up the business was a hobby so that I could compete. It wasn't the thing. It was my family. It was competing.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I wanted to obviously take care of them, and I felt like that was a means to that. After they started getting money. So there was no money when I started. I was working a full-time job. It didn't have a gym and was like competing. And the winner of the games got $2,500. I didn't do it for money.
Right.
And then it upped to 25,000. And then when it got to 250,000, and then all of a sudden money started coming in when you were good and there were sponsors. And it was kind of like, oh, wow, I can actually make some money on this too. And oh yeah, I love every moment of being in the gym.
Sure. That's when actually the sport grew enough where it had a following where it could be, you know, a bit more sustainable, and then sustain the athletes.
I was very fortunate to grow with the sport.
Sure, for sure. When was your last time you were at the games? What was your first year and the last year in the games?
2011 and 2000 to 2019. I qualified in 2020, but then they canceled.
Right. You want to get into the games a little bit? You want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure, we can talk about that.
Yep. What was the highest you finished in any of those years?
Well, 2019 I won in the 35 to 39. And then the year before, 2018, I got 20th overall, which would have been my highest individual placement, which was 2018.
Legit, right?
Yeah.
Dang.
And so I always liked it because I think I was the first person ever to qualify as an individual and then the following year go masters.
Wow. So old.
Yeah, which I didn't feel like it.
Right.
I didn't feel like it. But I mean, I'd been most of these guys I'd been competing with were 18, 19, 20 when I started, and I was 27 when I started like getting good. So I was around, those were the people I was with all the time. So I'm on my way out and they're 27, 28. And the whole time they're like, yeah, you're 27, 28, right? And I'm like, you guys have said that to me for the last 10 years.
The sport got harder, right?
Yeah.
They have more people doing it and better people doing it. So that means younger folks. There's some great 40-year-old basketball players, but they're not many. There's mostly in their 20s and 30s, right? So to maximize people physically at that sport, it's going to be a younger man's game for that volume and intensity. Like the numbers, the old Amanda times 10, 15 years ago versus now, they're completely different, right?
Yeah. I'm very fortunate. I was super healthy. I was actually like injury prone before CrossFit. And then nothing ever kept me out of competing. I mean, I can literally trained full time from 2009 until 2020.
Dang.
And never took off time for any reason.
When certain events came up, which ones were like, oh man, I'm going to smash this one, or oh damn it, I really don't want to do this one? There's some areas that you felt stronger or weaker in.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the most of my career, I would say everybody would think anytime it got heavy, that was like my jam.
Yep.
But the truth was, it was really anything that was heavy enough to slow somebody down with a high skill. So like a high gymnastic skill with a heavy bar or something really heavy, where something was going to slow you, whether it was the gymnastics or the weight. And the weight never really got me super tired, and I was always really good at the gymnastics. So when you brought those two together, I could almost like walk through the workout and look like I'm just destroying it. But really, it was a very casual, like methodical movement, which is what you see by the top guys anyway, is that. So yeah, for me, anything that got heavy, automatically I knew certain guys were done. And then the higher the skill, I knew certain guys were done. You just threw like grunt work at me or long mental, like where you have to think about how much this sucks for a long period of time. I had to work at that a lot more.
Sure. Yep. Some people have that pain tolerance for longer, better. Some have the pain tolerance for shorter and higher intensity, better. So it's rare that everyone has all of it, except for, I guess, Matt Fraser, right?
Oh yeah, Matt's a different beast.
Different beast, right?
How do you feel about swim events?
So I would say with swim events, it was always one of those things where like it never mattered. I mean, I think maybe at one semifinal, maybe they had a swim at some point, maybe. But I never trained swimming until I made the games.
Okay.
Because it was a waste of time. Why would I do something that's not going to get me where I want to go? But as soon as I would get there, I would be in the pool 3-4 days a week, just like, I'd run to a pool and all that I did for swimming was really dumb, but I would just get in a pool and swim for 30 minutes in circles and never touch the ground and just work on my breathing and my stroke. I would never touch the side. I wouldn't get out of the pool. I would just do just to get comfortable in the water for that long. And I would do that every day. And then eventually, like, I'd get my breathing down. I'd get my stroke, what I want to use down. I would find out how I felt best that year. And then I'd start getting out of the pool, doing a movement and getting back in. But it was more of just being comfortable breathing and being in the water for an extended period of time. And knowing that I think with the games in particular, really in any competition, but the games was one of those where you knew 1 through 10 was kind of figured out, meaning at an event. So if there's a swim event, there were guys that had been swimming in college. They've been swimming for years. So like there's 10 guys I'm just not going to beat. Like you could train me for 5 years and they're still going to beat me. Like they're just those 10 guys. Then you've got 10 guys in the back who I've been swimming since I was young, but I'm not like a great swimmer. And those 10 guys though are never going to beat me because they can't swim or they just can't figure out how to do it. I don't know. And it's that 20. It's that 11th to 29th and 30th place that basically I was always like, all right, if I can, the farther in that mid 20 I can push myself up, that's really my goal. It wasn't to get 5th in a swim event, but it wasn't to get 30th. It was like, if I get 30th, I'm right where the worst I should be. If I get 18th, I'm like, I'm killing that event. So for me, that's where I always would look at events and say like, okay, there's guys that are going to win no matter what. And then there's guys that are never going to beat me. So I got to beat those who are in my position. I got to outwork them in that short period of time.
And you mentioned earlier about you excelled whenever things got heavy, people slowed down. So I'm just going to assume you liked the heavy lifts then in the CrossFit Games.
So basically what kind of happened is I went through about a 1.5 year period, and I'd say it was probably between 12 and 14, where I would wake up every single day and dread working out. Yeah. Like I would wake up every day and I'd just be like, I don't want to train. I don't want to do this. And then it'd be like, but you have to. Like you have a goal. You have to do it. So what I kind of learned was, all right, if I have to do it, that means I got to train. So I would go to the gym and I'd get to the gym and I'd be like, I don't want to do anything. And what I would do is I would say, well, what is the easiest, lowest hanging fruit thing I could do? And it was put some weight on a bar and just start lifting slowly, right? I'll start squatting. I'll start putting weight over my head. I'll start cleaning. I'll snatch. And I would just start lifting. And what would happen is it would just get my mood up. It would get me going. And then I would hit my lifting. And then it was like, what's next? And every single day, that's when I got really, really strong was I'd go in and I would just lift. And then it was like, what's next? And then once I got there, I could train all day. But I'd have to get into the gym and just start on the easiest thing. And for me, it was that. So for a long time, that I did that probably till 2016. And then eventually I said, all right, I got to start doing other stuff. So I would just go first thing in the morning and I would just run. And I would just, I wouldn't set a pace. I would just run for an hour and a half. I'd row a 10K. I would just start doing, and there was no pressure. There was no, you got to hit this split. You got to do this time. It was like, get comfortable making this your first thing. Get comfortable doing this. And then eventually it was like, all right, now I'm going to time it. How long did that take me? I got to go faster next time. should I speed up in the beginning, in the end? And then it was, now I'm going to do interval. Now I got to get people because I'm going to. So for me, it was what got me into the gym and starting. So therefore, I became the strong guy.
So you kind of almost, in a way, took a weakness of where you were feeling, you were just dreading the train. You found a way to almost make it a strength, and you essentially became stronger at doing that. Okay.
Yep. And I think that's where some people get it wrong. They're like, but I have to do what I suck at. And it's like, but if you hate it, that's not the goal. Like, I don't care. Because again, there's example, if you talk to Matt probably and you're like, hey man, did you hate it? He'd be like, yeah, I hated it. But he's like 32 and he's not doing it anymore. And he's now created this other thing. And it's kind of like business and with training, it's like, yeah, there's it sucks. And there's a lot of stuff that's hard. You put a lot of time into it and there's nothing guaranteed. There's nothing that is, you don't deserve anything, but it's going in, day out, being consistent, doing the stuff. And sometimes it's knowing, I think with a lot of people, they'd be like, oh, well, but then when I get done lifting, I'm just done because now I'm tired, or like that was enough. And that was the difference was, no, that was the start. And yeah.
So there's a number of things that are out, which I absolutely love. And I always refer back a lot of times to Atomic Habits, and Lucas has got to be sick of me talking about it, but James Clear's
great book. James Clear is awesome.
Awesome, right? And he'll say, if you're going to do something and you don't want to do it, just do it for 2 minutes. Set the minimum of 2 minutes. So there's times like I don't want to go to the gym and I'll go to the gym and I'll just do this, and then your mood changes, that endorphin release. I'm listening to this other podcast and the swimmer, he goes, yeah, we do 7 hours in the pool and I don't want to do 7 hours. He goes, all right, I'm going to show up in the first hour, I'm just going to do my favorite event. So a couple things. That one, you just, what they call greasing the groove. So you just get going. Just get going. That's it. Just get going. 2, you then said, all right, I'm going to run and see, and I'm just going to go. And the next time I'll time it. So with James Clear, we would say, you can't improve your habit until you have the habit. So the habit was, I'm going to run or row. And you do it a few times in a row. All right, now that I have this habit, I'm going to time it. And now that I have that habit, I'm going to see, can I do it a little bit better? And then after I do that piece, I'm doing an interval. So it's the get going and then improve the habit and then evolve the habit. And the most basic habit building process, you use that fundamentally to build a games level athlete with the most basic, I don't even want to work out today kind of mentality. I don't want to eat better mentality, but I'm just going to do these little things and stack them consistently over time. And next thing you know, I'm top 20 in the world or number 1 in my age group.
And I think that people don't understand, like if you, for a year and a half, I didn't want to work out every single morning. I woke up was like Groundhog's Day. Like seriously, like I don't want to do this. I don't think people grasp that. Like they're like, oh yeah, but if I were you, I would do it. No. I didn't. Like the difference is, I'd say this to people a lot. You wake up to do a job that somebody else is paying you to do because they don't want to do it. And you get really good at it. And you don't even like it because somebody paid you. Nobody pays you to get up and work out and do that stuff. Like there's nothing that's guaranteed in that. And the only difference that is you're guaranteed money. So if I took the money away, you wouldn't do it. But yet it's the same feeling, right? You're not going to want to wake up and go do something that you don't want to do every single day. It just doesn't work like that. So the struggle, like where people ask, like, what's the secret? And the secret is true. Well, first off, there isn't one. But if you want to think of it as like the top level, like somebody who's doing something extraordinary, it's that they can do the most basic, boring things every single day without quitting.
Yes. The end. Stop the show. We're good. Take that. If anyone's listening, take that piece, write that down, and run with it, and you're probably going to be good.
That's it.
Yes.
That's what everything is. Everything is that simple. It's working out's that simple. Go to the gym, do something, and learn from it. You don't have to be the best at it right now. And what you realize is getting to the gym for a lot of people is hard. you know how to eat well. Eat the right food more than you eat bad food. And you realize that's hard because you want to eat other crappy stuff. So like the
Me too.
secret, money, spend less than you make. That's really hard for people to do. Life is not a difficult.
Yes.
It's super, super simple stuff. It's just that people fail to do the basics.
Yeah. The virtuosity. That's what I call the fundamentals, you know, people catching ground balls after ground balls after ground balls. And also the other thing I took, you know, yes, you know, you do a SWOT analysis in your business or in yourself, and you come up with your strengths and your weaknesses. And you got to hit your weaknesses. And I preach that you got to hit your weaknesses. But enjoyment's also one of our core values. So if you don't get to ever work on your strengths or the things that you like, and you're always just doing this shit every day that you hate, then that's going to fly in the face of that sustainability piece. And if you want to have something sustainable, you got to kind of have some fun along the way. So if it's fun to clean and jerk heavy, and so, hey, I will do all this bullshit as long as I could clean and jerk heavy 2 times a week or whatever, 3 times a week or squat heavy. As long as I get to do that fun stuff, all right, I'll also work on this other crap part as well. And then when you put that together, you keep working on the crap so that your weaknesses come up. So that's another big takeaway I took from that, Nick. That was excellent.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you would go if you got to be a fly on the wall, which there were a handful of people that got to, and you would see me in the gym and just like hating life for 15 minutes, if you left for 20 and came back in, you'd see me dancing around, just blaring music and just like a madman. And you'd be like, what happened? And it's like, I love this, but getting to this point is hard. Like you don't just, you can't replicate what that feeling is. Like it's just like playing a sport, going out on a football field. You can't just put on pads and go run out on the field and pretend like you're playing 11 on 11 in front of a crowd. You can't just do that. But when you do it, you realize that it's different. You can't replicate the feeling, the butterflies, all the things that are going on. So for me, it was like I also had done it enough times to be like, I think I can get there today. Even though I feel this way, if I can just get there, oh, that's a great feeling. You know, it's like a runner's high. You don't just get a runner's high just because you put your shoes on. You got to get 45 minutes to an hour and a half into a run, and then there's a high, and people are like, why would you take that long to get to a runner's high? It's like
that's what it took.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
The problem with Nick is that his runner's high at his level of fitness takes 6 hours of pain and misery before he feels that little endorphin release because his standard's so high, so that threshold doesn't get hit yet.
I appreciate that.
The any moments at the games or even regionals or whatever, because you're at the Ohio region, and I used to go watch that over in Columbus and stuff, which is fun. And anything where you're like, hey, you guys didn't know about this, but it's 1 or 2 times, holy shit, this is funny, or this is fun, or
regionals. I mean, as far as like competing wise, I think 2018, one thing, like Frazier came into our regional in, I think it was 2018, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember a couple things. One, he would always ask how you were going to do the workout, and then he would tell you how he was going to do it, and he never did it how he said. So he would do it. He would basically just do it faster than what he said. So you'd be starting the workout, and you'd look over, and you're like, "That's not what he said." Like he's like, "Got you."
Yeah.
Whereas like Rich never would say anything like that.
Right.
And then I remember there was one time we were standing. So this is again regionals. And it was one of the events, and we were getting ready to go out, and he was like, what's the top time? And it was, I want to say it was like 8 minutes and 30 seconds at the time. And I said that to him. Like, it was like around 8.5 minutes. He misheard me. He thought I said 7 minutes. So he went out and destroyed this workout. And at the end of it, I was like, what? And he goes, man, I missed the record. And I was like, no, you didn't. And he goes, I thought you said it was 7 minutes. And he was like 7:13. He's like, I just didn't want to not win that one in the world. And I was like, well, I'm pretty sure you just beat it by over a minute.
Dang.
Like just little conversations. Like, but that dude was crazy. But definitely had an awesome time with all the athletes. As far as I would say the one thing that people don't talk about because I don't think that they want to say anything was 2017 when I hurt my pec. And I ended up 2 days. So to fast forward, on Sunday, I was Olympic lifting, and I clean and jerked like 395 and I snatched 308. And people were like, how'd you do that with a hurt pec? And I was like, I don't know. But what was said was that I tore my pec, which is the farthest from the truth. What happened was I'd heard it earlier in the week, like a week or so before, didn't do anything. Got to the competition, did the first event, which was a long one, and I'd been working on that, and I got like 8th in it, which was supposed to be my worst event. So I got 8th place on the first event, so I'm like, sweet, great spot. I'll probably win this next one. And I go in warm-up area, and it was dips. So basically we had to do like a bunch of ring dips. And I go to do a dip, and I felt the same pulling in my pec, and I was like, no. So I just say like, all right, I'm going to cross my fingers and hope things work out when I go out on the floor. I run out on the floor. I basically get to the rings first. There was like a movement beforehand to get to the rings. I jump up, and you had to start like at extension. And I start to lower myself, and I just feel it pulling. I couldn't even like get myself down to the bottom of the rings to then even come back up. And I think there was maybe at this point like 40 guys had already hurt their pec. So it was like a very big emphasis on don't hurt yourself. So I basically looked at my judge, and I was like, I think I'm going to hurt my pec. And he's like, stop. And they like all these judges run over, and they're like, don't do it. Don't hurt yourself. And I was like, first off, I'm not stupid. I can't even do this. Like, I'm going to hurt myself, but like, I don't know if you remember, they used to have minimum work requirements.
Mm-hmm.
And you had to do 21 ring dips to continue in the competition. And
shit.
I couldn't even do one. And it was a 6-minute cap. So I couldn't even do one ring dip. So basically, like, I get off the floor, and they're like, you're done. And I'm like, but I earned my spot. I know what movements I can't do. I can do most of them. Like, I deserve to be out here. Like, and they were like, no, you didn't complete the work. You're done. I remember I was bawling. And then I think Dan Bailey came out, and he had his pec hurt also. And we had a couple more people. So anyway, it was 2 days later that I did the lifting. And then that got some publicity, we'll say, where it got posted on Dave Castro's feed. CrossFit found out I got drug tested. It was this big thing that I was faking it. I guess there was a lot of stuff that was said I never heard any of it. But ultimately, yeah, like a lot of stuff happened, but people think I tore my pec, and that's just like the farthest from the truth. Like the next day when I got home, I did Murph, but I couldn't do regular push-ups. So I did strict handstand push-ups, 100 of them in Murph, or 200 of them in Murph. And I was fine. It's just weird. I don't know.
Did that whole dynamic? So yeah, I get. So there are rules in sports, and when we don't make the rules, you got to play the game by the rules, and that's the way it goes. So you're out there working out, and then it kind of escalated, and they're real accusatory. Did that whole dynamic escalate further? Did that whole story have legs and keep going further, or cause more issues, or was it kind of like over and done with a week later?
It was basically over and done with. I thought. So I got back to the gym, and obviously a lot of people asked, but nobody that was close to me was saying anything, to my face. And then, so that would have been May, June regional time. I'm not really sure but the games are in August, and I want to say right before the games in 2017 or right after the games. I can't remember where Dave Castro had a book come out. And I basically got a phone call from a games athlete who was like, did you read the book? And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, Dave, let me read you the book. And it accused him of basically faking an injury and being on drugs. And then it accused me of being on drugs, and that I faked an injury so I wouldn't get drug tested. Even though right on that Sunday, I got drug tested by CrossFit at regionals, the competition they said I faked an injury at and didn't want to get drug tested. I was drug tested. In the book, it said that. also. So I'm like, Dave knew I was drug tested because he probably called and told them to drug test me. So, and he had made a post, which is no longer available, that was a video of me doing a 308-pound snatch on Sunday. And it said, Nick Urencar PRs his snatch, which it was not a PR. My PR was 315, just so you know. We said I PR'd it. And then the next line said, after tearing his pec, which is a very shitty thing.
Right.
So my wife commented and said, way to support your athletes. And then he immediately deleted the post. So it doesn't exist anymore on social media.
Maybe he just thought he made a mistake and took it down.
Potentially. So I got pissed when I heard the book. And I got drug tested a lot that year. And I remember I said after I heard that, I'm going to the games next year just to show, like, because if I didn't make it, it could have also been like, oh, it's because he was on stuff. Or so I was like, I'm making it to the games, and I'm gonna be there. Not gonna get taken away. No one's gonna cut. I'm not doing anything. So if I compete the entire time, doesn't that look bad? If 6 months before you write a book about me doing stuff and faking this injury to like now I'm there. And I qualified, walked into the event and got drug tested. Which again, I'm not complaining about being tested at all. It was just like Dave was obviously, and probably CrossFit was like, okay, I have no idea. No one ever said anything to me. Nobody ever, except for before the first event. So before the first event, which was a crit race, which is, by the way, the coolest event one of the coolest events I've ever done. We had to go get sized for bikes, and they just like kind of announced the event, and I turn around to walk out, and I get tapped on my shoulder, and it was Castro, and he's like, kind of come with me, and he walks me into back office, and he's like, we're good, right? And he like puts his hand out to shake my hand, and I was like, no, we're not good. And he was like, well, and I'll probably butcher exactly, like I don't know exactly what he said, but it was essentially, hey, this is the biggest event of the year. Don't do anything stupid. And he was basically telling me like, I know you're pissed. Don't go out here and make a scene. Which I'm thinking, I never even thought about that. I just wanted to prove that I belonged here and this isn't fake and I've been here before. And why me? Because I look like I take steroids? Steroids would be a stupid thing for me to be taking. I would be taking something for recovery, or like I don't want to get bigger. Like I'm too big. Like what? So like this stuff, the reason why I was being pointed out was because I looked a certain way. It had nothing to do with performance. It had nothing to do with why somebody would be doing anything. Like, so when he said that to me, I was like, you owe me a public apology. And he kind of laughed and he put his hand out and he's like, we're good, right? And I was like, you owe me a public apology. And again, he was like, all right. He's like, just don't do anything stupid. And we just parted ways. And when we got outside, he basically yelled at a photographer and was like, hey, get a picture of me and Nick. And I just got on my bike and I like left. And he's like, Urankar, hey, let's like race. Let's race. And I was like, all right. So I take off on the bike and he's like, no, you're going too fast. Like, so we slow down, we get by each other and he's like, all right, go. And we go. And then there's a picture that he posts and it's basically like Nick Urencar getting ready for the crit, blah, blah, blah. And like a nice thing. And it gets posted and people are like, is that his apology? Like, that was a weird, like, why would he post it about Nick after he said the stuff he said, like they're friends? Like, is Nick not on anything? So it was just like and I remember like everything was very positive towards me on this post, but ultimately he never apologized, never said anything. And I don't think he probably feels like he needs to apologize. But even inside, the thing I think that got me the most mad was, and I don't think I've ever told that story publicly, and I've never said this publicly, but in his book, he said, I asked Dan Bailey if he could go ahead and snatch 135 pounds with a torn pec. And he said, I couldn't even snatch the barbell with a torn pec, let alone do any more weight. So he used that as his reasoning why I faked it. So obviously he was having conversations about me throughout this, never saying anything to me personally. And I think Dan had to have surgery. Like, I never had anything. Like, so
there's a difference between a strain and a tear.
Yeah.
There's a big difference, right?
So obviously that like gets me a little bit, but yeah. So I'm still waiting, but I don't think I'm gonna get anything. I don't think I'm gonna get anything.
I don't think so either at this point. That's a good question I asked. Yay me to get Nick up and running. That's like in that Last Dance show about the Bulls, and Rodman had screwed up, and he goes to Jordan's hotel room and knocks on the door, and Jordan's like, Rodman, Dennis never comes in my room. And Dennis showed up and said, hey, can I get one of those cigars you have? And Jordan's like, yeah, okay, here you go. That was as close as they got to the apology that Dennis, So hopefully, maybe asking for a cigar or riding your bicycles together, that's gonna have to do. And
I think at this point there's just some people that I think some people just think they're right, or that you're wrong, or that it's not that big of a deal. And you can't control that. So for me, it's, I guess how I kind of like what I would say to anybody if Dave was here or anybody was in front of me and they're like, well, but look at you or whatever. And I'd be like, here's the thing. If every single person who I'm competing against is on something, then I'm a fucking badass.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And if nobody's on it, then I'm right where I need to be.
Yeah.
I would rather be way more superior than what everybody else, than like where I actually am doing it the way that I did it, than falsely believe I'm somewhere else. So that's how I always went into it, regardless. So like there was never and I don't judge anybody on any decisions that they make, but that was just the way that I looked at it, is like, I would rather find out everybody was on it and be like, damn,
right,
I'm freaking legit.
Right.
So I always played that.
Don't they have to say, hey, Rich, you're up there on the podium all the time. Matt, you're on the podium all the time. Those would be the obvious targets, right?
Yeah.
So I gotta believe they were tested as well. Everybody's got to be tested once you're out there.
I know for sure. I mean, I guess I don't know a ton, but I think urine, it's kind of tough from what I can gather. But I was blood tested before, meaning blood testing, you're going to find
a whole bunch of shit.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I was blood tested, and I want to say I'm almost 100% positive that I know Rich and Matt have been blood tested as well. I know everybody's been tested. I've never heard anybody talk about it. I've heard maybe 2 or 3, like, I heard from this person that this person heard this stuff from maybe 3 different random people. But never was talked about it. Never, like, it's weird when I hear so many people say a lot of people are in it, because even when I look at other guys, I see their weaknesses. I'm talking even like Matt was the one person, like, you're kind of like, I can't find a flaw. But even with Rich, again, Rich way better than me, but you could still watch and be like, he's beatable.
Sure.
Like, so
and some things, right?
When you're competing with them, working out with, and you're at that level, it doesn't seem so far away to where, a general person might be like, that's impossible. No way. Well, I did it. So when I look at them, I'm like, they should be able to do it too. And you could. I don't know why me. I don't know, like, if it was my work ethic, if it was my background and what I did, like, what drew me into just having this crazy drive to be the best and do everything I could. I don't know. But I can tell you that when I watched anybody out there, I saw they were beatable. So
everyone's going to have some type of chink in the armor or flaw,
yeah,
and
so
their own strengths too.
Correct. So there was nobody that I looked at where I was like, they're so much farther ahead of me. They've got to be on drugs.
Right. You know, plus the females too, they're all getting tested, and compared to the rest of the society, you know, any guys that are there and females, they're like way more jacked than other folks. So then the easy mindset, so I can self-preserve my own ego, is to say that person's cheating, because if they really had to work hard, they wouldn't do it. I know if I worked that hard, I could be there, but I'm not going to work hard because I know that they're cheating. So it's a little self-preservation bullshit lie excuse you tell yourself on why it's okay to not work hard like that.
I don't think people truly understand. Like, I think people understand the time, right? They're like, oh, so-and-so's in the gym for 3 or 4 hours a day, or so-and-so does this. But like, to truly be doing the work and seeing what it takes to do the work and understanding that, like, I mean, this is their life. Mm-hmm. This is all they do. Their body is this unbelievable byproduct of all of this work. Like, and what's so crazy is how different that body of work looks, right? Like, you could line up 30 females and they all look completely different, yet they're doing like, the outcomes aren't that far off. Mm-hmm. Same thing with the men. That's what I think is so cool. Like, to me, what's so cool about CrossFit that doesn't get talked about, CrossFit isn't about the fittest on earth. It's about it's about training methodology. It's a test of your training. Because if it was about because it's so randomized that the fittest will win based off their training. So what you believe fitness to be will decide the methodology that you use to get you there. So therefore, everybody trains differently, yet can get similar results. Mm-hmm. Right? We're all doing different programming, all different stuff, but yet you go out and you're within 3 seconds of somebody doing completely different things, having completely different body types, and training in like all different realms. And then as it gets better, obviously things start to come together where you do. But the truth is, it is a test of training methodology.
You know, in the strength world, you see that too. Like Brian Shaw's 6'7", 6'9", 440. Right? Mateus is 330. They have guys that are 295, and they're all competing at World's Strongest Man. And then you watch the powerlifters. You have Westside Barbell doing the conjugate method, right? Then you have someone else from Poland doing linear periodization, or then there's the Bulgarians always lifting heavy all the time, and they're still within a finite number of kilos of the overall total to set an all-time world record. And you're like, well, this person's training this way, this person's training completely different, and they're still strong as shit, completely different training methods, but they still reach that peak. And it's like, oh shit, well, what can I learn from you?
And every time you walk away, you think like, should I adjust my training?
Mm-hmm.
Should I tweak or change or do something? Like, because that's what it comes. That you're just like, what's the edge in the training? Obviously, there's nutrition and there's stress, there's sleep, all that other stuff. But the coolest aspect, I think, is that all these people are training completely different and getting very similar results. And when you see people, because that's the thing, like, people are training as hard as they are, nobody's willing to put in the type of work that work at all.
Sure.
I'll give workouts to people and they'll say, oh, this is just too much. And I'm like, you haven't trained. So I think a big thing that I say a lot is you haven't trained that hard to train that hard. So you can't just, like, a lot of people jump in and they just try to do a bunch of stuff because that's what they think they have to do. And it's like, no. You have to do what you've always done until you want a little bit more, and then you get a little bit more. But a little bit more might be all you need. And most likely you don't need anything more. But for somebody like me, it was like, all right, I want some more. And then I would be like, oh, now I'm tired. And I'd be tired for a while. And then it'd be like, oh, I want to do more. And then it just it was this building block. It wasn't a 0 to 100. And I think most people don't train hard enough to train that hard. So when they see somebody doing something and they try, 30% of it, and they're like, that's just too much. It's like, yeah, because I've been doing this for 10 years. I've adapted in a way that nobody believes can be done. And I don't know why, but my body holds up and I love it. And you don't have to do this. And it might take you 7 or 8 years to even get to the point where you can find out if you should be doing it. Because like most people don't even give it the amount of time it deserves to find out if it's even worth doing.
That's right out of the James Clear thing. So this is your, equilibrium, and this is pain, right? You're just supposed to go a little bit this way, so that this is now your new equilibrium, and then you keep moving a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
You look at this also, though. People probably don't recognize this, that people like Rich or you, when they come out of college playing a college sport, they're not learning clean and press for the first time. Like, so to say a linebacker cleans 300 at a D1 school, that's pretty standard, right? The 300 clean. So when Nick comes out of Indiana State playing football, well, he's used to lifting several days a week. Then he's used to painful practices of conditioning, change of direction, building capacity. Then you have to, feed yourself to perform, and then do the recovery stuff. You get in the ice baths, you're doing all the other mobility, soft tissue shit. Then you might have some extra stuff you got to do, right? So you take that after growing up playing sports, and he's probably, I'll play football in the fall, and then at home when he's a little kid, probably playing basketball on the weekends with his buddies, or out there tromping through the water in the creek or something like that, but always active. So you have this capacity you've been building since you're little, and you're playing at a college level sport with that volume and intensity, and you just keep that going. And it's not like, well, I just started lifting when I was 27.
And I would go and work out with my friends at night.
Yeah.
In the gym with them after practice.
Right. So it builds over a long fucking time.
And I think it's funny because a lot of people inside of you get mad at, a new person comes in and people will get upset when they see him do something like that. How can you do that? And it's like, you don't know me.
Yeah.
Like, why can't you do it? Like, your question is wrong. So there was a thing that happened, and it was really, really funny, where I went into a CrossFit gym for first time, and I did a workout that had handstand push-ups, and it was called Diane. But basically, one thing in football, we didn't deadlift a ton, like heavy. So I sucked at deadlifting. We would hang clean and do, clean pulls, but never like heavy deadlifts. So this workout had deadlifts and handstand push-ups. So I finished the workout and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm dying. Like, this killed me. And everybody's jaws were like dropped. And I was like, what? And they're like, I've never seen that before. And I was like, are you talking about those deadlifts? Because that was really heavy.
Right.
And they're like, no, you just did strict handstand push-ups the entire workout, all of them unbroken, like it was nothing. And I was like, oh, that was the easy part. I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, people don't just do that. That's not right. That's not normal. And I was like,
unless you got a strict overhead press, right?
Yeah. So then I was like, what? So me and my brother would do a lot of the same stuff. So I go to my brother and I was like, hey, Mitch, kick up on the wall and do like handstand push-ups. And he's like this? And I was like, yeah. And he does like 30 of them and he comes off. And I go, people think that's hard.
Hey, Diane's my favorite CrossFit workout of all time, by the way.
Really? Okay. So
I love that one. So I got short arms.
Dude, we actually did that in regionals in 2012. And I think me and Dan Bailey went head. They had the bar staggered, but that was the workout. We did Diane, and I guess it was supposed to be hard, but that's the part where like, I think so many people get judged by people who believe that, like, oh, but I've been putting in work, and it's like, yeah, I know. This is the first time I've ever done anything physical. I'm sorry that this isn't going how you wanted. Like, I don't know who you are. Why? Like, some of the things that people will say sometimes, but ultimately, yeah, I had a huge base coming in from all of my background, just even the way that you played, right? Like, I used to kick up on my hands all the time, do flips off rocks, just kids stuff that you look at it, but when you look back, you're like, dang, that was like a skill that I honed and developed without necessarily being coached. And then when you get a coach or somebody to really help you, you realize like, oh, wow, just little tweaks can exponentially improve me.
Did you ever have much coaching when you're at the higher level? Or do you have training partners that would push you?
I would love to say yes, but no. I was self-coached in all the, so in college, we did some Olympic lifting, mainly cleans.
Mm-hmm.
And then, a lot of pressing and obviously squats and stuff. So my squat was bigger than my deadlift. I didn't really know how to lift, but what I would just do is, so my coaching was just watching other people, and mainly online, right? I'd look up different, mainly I'll look up different lifters all over the world and just be like, all right, how are they doing this? And I would do that with everything. So I think that a secret that I learned that most people still don't know, or a trick, is when you go into an area where there are a lot of really, really good people, observe them.
Mm-hmm.
I think we observe in like they're like, we judge. What I would do is I'd watch, I'd be like, that person's really good at X and this person's really good at this. So I'd be like, what are they doing differently? What is it that I'd watch them like prep, get ready. And there'd be times where there'd be, a person who, because a lot of times when you're in a warm-up area, people are semi showing off, egos in there, right? You're like
really fast 95-pound cleans.
Yeah. So there's like a lot of stuff going on. And there's only two people that aren't doing anything. It's the person who is scared to look bad, or it's the person who doesn't want to give any tips away. So they know something somebody else doesn't know. Rich was really good at this. And like an example was Alex Smith. So back probably 2014, great gymnast, Alex Smith. And we were doing legless rope climbs, and everybody left, and he didn't do any. And it was before an event, but he stayed back. So I'm like, I'm going to leave far enough to watch. So I kind of sit down on a bench, and this is, I think, at Wadapalooza, and I'm sitting watching, and he starts climbing, and he was free falling. So now it's well known, meaning he touched and he just fell and then caught himself at the bottom, and then he did it like 3 times. I'd never seen it in my entire life. No one had ever done it. But obviously, he didn't want anybody else to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times when you're competing, you miss that stuff out on the floor. So what I basically did was, when I get home, I'm learning how to do that. So I went home, and within 6 months, I was free falling. Well, regionals comes in 2015, and there's legless rope climbs, and I can free fall. What people don't understand is the amount of time you save in learning those efficiencies and learning those things. But I worked on that for 6 months after that event. And it showed up and it paid off. And most people then will go, oh, you're lucky you could do that. That's why you beat me. Or like, oh, that's not fair. Now I got to learn that. The top people are 1, 2, 3 steps ahead in the next efficacy,
iteration.
To be more virtuous with what they're doing. Nowadays, it's a lot harder for that. But that was Rich. Rich was steps ahead of everybody. He was just 2 or 3 steps ahead. And then by the time you caught him, he was 2 or 3 steps ahead again. And he was the person that made me learn. Like, I have to learn from you guys because I'm not seeing it. So I was self-taught. The way that I coach is very odd because it's all about feeling, because I learned through feeling, right? I'd see something, I'm like, what's that feel like? So I'd replicate it. I'm like, well, that didn't feel like it probably should have. So all my movements were off feeling. So I'm very aware of my body, my surround, like how my body moves, how it moves together, when it's on, when it's off. And that's how I taught myself pretty much everything. And then watching tons of videos and spying on people.
That's the knowledge component for an athlete. There's 6 components, and that's one of them. And those, some of the basics, if you're at the basic level, the basics move you pretty far. And then at that top level, every little inch matters, as you know. And it's something like that. We had Kenny Bigby on, and his podcast just dropped, and I was talking to him about the yoke course. He's a Navy SEAL. And the yoke course has this rope you got to go across. And for the longest time, people are hanging from the rope. Their feet are underneath it, and their hands are underneath it, and they're pulling themselves like this, hanging from it. Until someone tries to beat that time, they lay on top of the rope. One leg lays down. The other one, the foot hooks on the rope, and you're laying on your belly, and you pull yourself. And then so now there's the next evolution. Someone else learned it. Someone else tried it out. Everyone else replicates it. But for a while, that guy has this little Jedi mind trick master level component, that person wins. And that's no different than any other sport.
And I think what's so cool about that is, so I like in once like Google, Facebook, all these big companies, they have these rooms, and it's called like the Tinker Room. And what's really, really cool about the Tinker Room and why it brings that up is most people are the reason why a lot of times people don't test anything new in public is because they're scared of what everyone's going to think. So the first time we see something, we think it's the first time it's been done, but it's been done. That person has honed it in their own Tinker Room, alone, nobody watching. They were able to mess up enough times, figure it out, get really good at it, and then they showed it off. So then everybody's like, what? And these Tinker Rooms at these businesses are basically rooms that look like where you started. It's just a crappy office, tons of junk everywhere. And they say, when you have an idea, you get the key, you open it up, you lock yourself in there, and you tinker. And you either fail in silence and you walk out and you never speak of it. But if you come up with something, you take it to the next place that'll refine it. And it's that, like that. I think the reason why no one ever does anything is no one's willing to tinker long enough to find a better way. And it's those people that change the game for everybody, who are just willing to keep testing this thing that doesn't work. And it hasn't worked for a long time, but they know it will. They're missing something, right? They're gonna figure out that little bit. They know there's more and there's a better way. And you're not gonna find it the first time you jump on the rope and you try to do it. You're gonna do what everybody else does, and you're gonna mimic that.
Wouldn't it just be awesome, and I'm guilty of not doing this, wouldn't it be awesome just to say, man, fuck it. I don't care if this looks silly. I'm just going to keep trying. And if I just do that, I'll get to my answer sooner instead of just hiding. And a lot of times people don't even get to the answer because they don't even want to look silly in front of other folks. But it's that willingness to just not give a shit that gets you advanced. Now, they'll put your ego at risk, right? You got to be comfortable there. But if it's not at risk, then you go further faster.
There's a really, really good book called The Courage to Be Disliked.
Mm-hmm.
And have you read it?
No, but the title makes sense.
And what it basically says, and it's so true, it'll blow your mind. It's essentially like a dialogue back and forth with this philosopher and this young guy. Kind of like, it's a really, really interesting book. But essentially what it says is every single problem is an interpersonal problem. Meaning, example, you only think you're short because you see tall people. But if you didn't see anybody else, you didn't talk to anybody else, you didn't know there were other people, short wouldn't be a thing.
Yes.
You wouldn't be worried about being short, dumb, smart. It's all an interpersonal. All problems are interpersonal. And it's weird to think about it at first, but it's true. Like every issue we have is because we're worried about other people. Everything.
Yes. Get rid of that crap.
That's pretty good. That's a good one.
That's beautiful. Short. Lucas will have to make that into a clip.
Do it.
Hey, I had another specific question.
Yeah.
Were you, can we assume that's in front of a lot of folks, or the first time at the games where you were at different times somewhat nervous? Is there a process or a habit or a way you could centered yourself, or said, you know what, I'm going to still just go? Like, how do you, at some point people have to deal with fear with their performance in sports and how they look, like you just said.
Yeah.
How'd you handle that?
Whew, man. I mean, I think number one, playing as many sports as I did for as long as I did obviously helps you. And the cool thing, kind of like everything, is you start small, right? You start in front of your parents or in front of your sibling. And then you play when you're 6 in front of the other kid's parents. And then it's, maybe an uncle or your grandma comes. And it's just this developed. So I don't think, like, for me, it wasn't about the people. It was almost like I was more concerned about what if, like, you're going out on the floor. And what I would just always do is, because when we competed, there was always it was like complete silence. And there was like 10 seconds.
That
and then
sucks.
you'd hear, and then it was like 3, 2, 1, and then there was this buzzer. So it was like that 7 seconds was like
Pounding in
so
your head.
long, so long. So when all I would do is just breathe, and my whole focus was my first step.
Beautiful.
So I would just like, I got to get myself lined up on this platform. I got to have like what foot's going to take off first. And then it was like my first step. And then when I get there, what's my first move? Because once I got there, it was like, all right, now I'm going. Minute. It was like football was the first hit, right? You get the first hit, then you're like, I'm in the game. So it was more like, just don't let anything happen before the first hit bad. Like,
right.
But I think it was, for me, like the competing side it was the accepting of like, you're going to be nervous. And I would just always tell myself, you can't replicate this feeling. So embrace it. You can't fake it. You can't just make it up. So embrace this and just go out there and do everything you've done. So I knew how I kind of looked at competing was when I first started, I'd sign up for a competition and I'd get scared. Like, I'd be scared of, you name it, a movement. So what I would do is I'd write down everything I was scared of. And I'd be like, all right, that's what you got to work on. So then I'd get back from the competition and I'd work on that. And then I'd sign up for another comp and I'd be scared again. And I'd write down everything I was scared of. And then the goal was that list got smaller. And eventually one day I signed up for a comp and I just went right back to training. And I was like, that's the goal. The goal is I can't control what's going to happen once I go out on the floor to compete, but I can control how prepared I am to go out and compete. So all I would do is I'd sign up. What can I work on before I get there? Because most people are scared of what they didn't do.
Yeah. Yep.
And then they're like, well, I'm going to look bad because I'm not as good, or I'm going to look stupid because I wasn't ready. But the truth is you had the list. You knew what you had to work on. You just chose something else. And I think the more that we can accept what our choices were, the better we can handle the outcome. Like if I can say, hey, I didn't do the work I needed to do, and I can accept that, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to do the best I can, understanding that I wasn't prepared because I didn't choose to be. I can accept that. But I think that's where excuses come in. Excuses are just justifying why we're not doing something.
Yes. It from a young age, but then through college and then in the CrossFit world, like you had each year more and more reps. Like if I would have told you as you're graduating from Indiana State, hey, next year you're going to CrossFit Games, you get fucked, right? You're not ready, right?
Yeah.
Right. But you had years of reps in between, smaller competitions in between. No one goes right to playing college football right from Pee Wee. Like you're in Pop Warner first, and then you progressively overload, just like your training, to get to that next level. I don't know Rich from Adam. I don't know Matt from Adam. All I know is from what you watch on TV and stuff or on videos.
Yeah.
And from what, no one ever knows really anything about anybody. When I would watch them, my assessment is that Rich is real methodical and he's watching the field throughout the day or the week or even that event. And he has that kick at the end. He'll do enough to beat you and not more so he can save his gas for later. And then my opinion of Matt was, I'm going to try to smash you so bad that mentally you never want to be on the floor with me again. And that, I don't know, but do you have any way of insights or clarification on that at all? Or say, Jim, you're way off?
No, whatever I say is kind of is my own
opinion, right? You don't sit there, hey, here's my idea.
Yeah,
Nick.
no, I would say that Rich knew he was on a different level. Still, though, was like, I've got to make sure like I don't do anything stupid. I've got to, take care of myself. Because he had trained with enough people. He knew like, hey, it's kind of like I have to mess up. But he had that pressure of like, I also can't lose, right? Like I have to win every event I go to. So that's a different level to have to be at. And I think Matt also kind of knew that he was good and he was doing certain things. There's certain benchmarks that you can test and you kind of know like, oh, wow, I'm kind of an outlier. Or, there's certain times, but you still have to go perform. And I think inside of CrossFit, it's like when you are really, really fit, it looks like that, right? It looks like you're being methodical. It looks like those things. But truthfully, like when I was in the zone in workouts, And I remember there was a workout in 2018, and it was me and Matt, and it was like a snatch workout and burpees. And we were on the last set of burpees, and he's like 2 reps ahead of me. And I'm like, in my head, I'm thinking, all right, if I go really hard, maybe I can get close to him, but then he's probably going to go really hard. Like, there's no way I can catch him. 2 reps was like a long way. Well, right when that moment passes, I look back, and I'm not tired, granted. Like, I'm like smooth, but it's like, how much faster can I move? And he can move fast. We're getting close to the end. But I look back, and we're a minute plus ahead of everybody. And they look dead. And it's those moments where you're like, I'm just running my race, but now I'm at the point that I have to decide if I'm going to race. Right? Like,
yeah.
So when you're running your race and you're just doing your thing, yeah, you look around and you see, because you just want to make sure, like, okay, I got to be aware of where I'm at, what's going on, when I'm going to push, what I'm going to do. But most of the time, it's kind of like, for me, I'd get to a point where it's like early and I'm behind, and you're like, even if I went faster, I'd be even more tired. So like, that would have been a bad idea. And if I could have maybe gone faster, but I'm not even going all out and I'm way ahead. So the idea I would always use with competing is, you put me in an event with local competition and no one knows who I am, and I can dust everybody and make it look effortless. You put me at the games, I get dead last, and everybody's like, what happened? Same person, different people I'm competing with.
Right, sure.
Matt and Rich just were so fit that they probably would tell you they made mistakes, but you couldn't tell because everybody else was just less fit.
Sure. Yeah. We have student athletes, high school and college kids that listen, and so any, 7% play college sports, 2% play D1 statistically. Give some insights on, hey, you know what? When you go to college, it's a different ballgame. You might be the big fish in high school, but it's different now. And just get some insights on workload, time management. Like, what's life like for a real college athlete?
Oh man, I think for a college athlete, obviously you would have played sports at that point. Mm-hmm. Moving on, my number one thing I would say for somebody who's in high school preparing to go to college is don't slack off once your season's over. Don't just like walk through your senior year because you're like, and finish your grades and stop training and stop getting ready. I think so many people go into college and they believe they're the same person they were in season, and they're not. And they go out there with men, and you lose a lot of confidence because you're not physically prepared. Not even like, not size wise, not, but just in shape. Like when you get tired with men, you feel inferior. So if you're in really good shape, you're not going to be the strongest. You're not, and if you are, awesome. But basically just be as prepared as possible for the physical demands of what you're going to have to go through, whether it's the heat, whether it's just running, hitting, play, like just getting into that. Because when you have that mental stress of like, oh crap, like I'm not as good as I am. And then all of a sudden, oh yeah, I got to go to class and I've got to, figure out how to get around. And now now you have this judgment. You feel like people are looking down on you because you're not in great shape, and you don't just get in shape magically. So leading up into it, I would say, number one, prepare yourself more than you prepared yourself for your last season. Like, it's another level. And it's not any harder. It's just now you're playing with the best guy at their school who still thinks they're the best guy at their new school. And everybody's going to the NFL or whatever it is. Like, everybody is until they're not. And you don't want to believe that you're not, and I'm not saying that you're not, but the truth is it's just, if you can prepare yourself as best you can leading up to it, and if you don't know what, I think a really tough thing for people is they stop because they don't know what the best thing is. And what I would say is what you've been doing better. If you've been out and you run hundreds, do it and just try to beat your splits. Cut your rest. Do one more. Do what you've been doing and do it better, because you're only going to learn by doing. And what'll end up happening is, and why a lot of athletes quit, I believe most athletes quit when they get to college because of that. They aren't prepared when they go in. They think they're the man and somebody else saw it. And they're going to go in and they're going to just take this spot and they're going to be awesome. And they're out of shape. They're not ready. And it's a new place. So they lose all their confidence. And every day they go back, they're like, this isn't right. I was the best. I was the man. And it's like, yeah, but you walked in like that. Be humble. Outwork everybody. Like,
Yep. That's going to be huge, that mindset, because you can come in as a 17 or 18-year-old and you're going against a 23-year-old that's been there 5 years. And it's used to that level in volume and intensity, and you're not. And then if you also handicap yourself because you're not physically or mentally prepared on top of that, going against someone who's 5 years older and more mature, oh man, the hit to your confidence could be severe enough that you don't recover.
Mm-hmm. I've told so many guys leave. So many guys would leave because of that. And it's that. And the problem is people will be like, oh, well, I ran track, or I did this thing in the off season, or like, I went to the weight room. But from May until August, before they had to come in, they were like, well, it's my senior summer. I was hanging out with my friends. I was doing all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, but you're an athlete.
Yeah, no.
Oh man! Oh, but you're an athlete. Oh,
yeah, you're an athlete. Exactly right. Yeah, yeah. You made a choice. You made this choice.
Yeah,
so that's the deal.
Somebody chose you for what you did. Like, prove it.
Yep. All right. I have some rapid fire questions, but before that, talk a little bit about what you're doing now. I know you sold the gyms, but you're also still making an impact and reaching people with Zeus Method. Just talk about that, what that's all about, and how you're impacting other folks.
Yeah, so Zeus Method has been since 2016, and really it's transformed quite a bit, because at that point, like I was talking, I was the strong guy, and I was like, well, people want to learn how to get stronger and how I did it. So that's kind of how it started. And then now kind of where I am, what I'm seeing, especially with like men, is, life happens. Marriage, kids, even just like growing out of your group, right? Maybe you move or you get a job and you start seeing people around you like, oh, well, they're going out or they're doing this. And you're starting to get pulled in different directions, and you start to think like, well, this isn't me. Like, I want to do other things, but life happens. So for me, what it's kind of transitioned back into, which is crazy, like I was talking about, those pockets, I think it's about just like when I started and I was competing to be the best in the world and I was training in these tiny little pockets. Yet as guys, we're like, I don't have any time. And it's like, I had lots of time. But if you looked at my schedule, you'd say, oh, you don't have any time. And it's like, no. It's what you chose to do with your time. And I think we underestimate the power of choice. You don't have to be doing any of the things that you're doing. You're choosing to. And I think if we can just accept those choices, it's a big thing. So with Zeus, it's basically saying, hey, fitness is personal. It can be whatever you want it to be in any way you want it to be. And ultimately, if you really want it, like you had said, 2 minutes, just like Atomic Habits, 2 minutes. I call them micro workouts. Wake up in the morning and do 2 minutes of push-ups. And you're going to say, damn, I had to stop. That was hard.
Yep.
But if you do that for 30 days, on the 31st day, do 2 minutes and 10 seconds. Like, do something that's going to make you proud. So what I always say, and why I like Zeus and why I kind of started this, is there's small workouts in there. There's long programs you can do. But what I say to everybody is, when you go to bed or when you're going through your day before bed, think about when you wake up, are you going to be proud? So when you're going through your day and you're coming up with all these excuses, you've got all this stuff, when you wake up, are you going to be proud of what you did? And if the answer is no, then today be proud. So everything that I'm trying to do is basically, I want you to be proud more days when you wake up about what you did yesterday than not be. That's it. And with training, with everything, it's not about 10 out of 10, right? Like if we're trying to be perfect, it's like, no, you're 0 out of 10. Let's get you 1 out of 10. And then 2 out of 10. And then eventually, what I would tell people all the time is when I lift, I get 9 out of 10 right. And it's the 10th one that I don't, but I know what I did wrong. I know how to correct it. And I'm getting 9 again. So it's the 10th one where it's just, I can make quick adjustments, and other people don't see it as a mess up because it's so small. And that's the goal, is we get to the point where we mess up, we make mistakes, we do things that are wrong, but failure isn't a thing. It's just a teacher. It's how we learn. The only thing that we fail at is quitting. So for me, it's saying, hey, every day or 4 days a week, I'm doing something. And what something can be falling on the ground and getting up and calling it a win. If that's more than what you did and you're proud of that. That's like, for me, it's transitioned into, hey, find out what you want to do and find the smallest, easiest way to do it and grow from it and become a better person that you can be proud of. I just want people to be proud of who they are as people. So every day waking up and be happy with the decisions you made. And if you're not, ask yourself if you are going to change them. And if you're not going to change them, how can you be happy? And I think that sometimes we don't not like what we're doing. We just wish we were better. And it's like, but are you happy? How can you learn to like be okay with who you are in what you're doing? And if you're not, how can we make some small changes? So that was a lot. Truly, it is about, I want fitness to be easy, simple, accessible, and literally where you can take it to any level that you want to. And that's the key, what you want to, not what somebody else thinks you should, not what you saw somewhere, but like truly what you feel good about.
That's awesome.
That's the culminates how Lucas and I talk to folks about our mantra is win the day. And so when you set your little targets and you do those during the day, then you can look back and say, yeah, I won. A lot of people say they didn't win until they lost 20 pounds, or they didn't win until I squatted this. Well, then you're not happy until you did that, and then you are happy in that moment. And then the next day, you're probably not happy again. But you could be happy today if you set 3 targets and hit all 3. And then tomorrow, maybe hit the same 3, and then maybe you hit 4, or whatever. Yeah. But that's what keeps you going, so it's sustainable and you enjoy it along the way. And that's how
when you become that person.
Yes.
Like if you want to lose 20 pounds, all you have to do is everything a person would do who was 20 pounds less than you.
Mm-hmm.
And you become him. That's it.
Yeah,
all you have to do is do those things. Boom. And what's so crazy is when you lose the 20 pounds, people are like, look at you. You did it. You're him. And it's like, no, I was him 20 pounds ago. This is just him finally showing you who I was.
Yeah. That's how it's manifested, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's why it's, it still comes down to, that's what it really means when it's you versus you, not you versus your Wodify leaderboard or you versus someone else, because that person can go ahead and die, right? You're competing against. You're still you're still you the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And did you meet your own standards that next day?
That's I think that's hard for people too. Sometimes is like I can be pretty critical. I know critical is probably not the right word, but I can be tough because I can look at you, I can talk to you, I can watch you, and I can tell you why you are who you are and where you're going. And most of the time, that's not a place that somebody wants to have pointed out to them.
Yeah.
But I can also see if you make change. I can see you, somebody like 6 months later, who's made all these changes. You still might look this way. You still, you're doing all this stuff. And it's like, wow, you're going somewhere.
Yep. You can see it in the potential in people.
You're going somewhere. And that's what I think the part is like people think that if I do something now, I need to be that person. It's like, no, you are the person.
Yeah.
Byproduct of all the results is going to come later. And you don't get to decide when and how it shows up. But if you don't stop, you're going to get them. We don't know what it's going to be, how far you're going to go, because obviously a lot of factors play in. But if you don't stop, God, sky's the limit.
Yes, sir. What do you listen to when you train?
So when I'm like lifting, hard, heavy, I love Amity Affliction. I'll do Slipknot. I'll do Word Alive, like anything like that. But I'll do techno, poppy. If I'm, not training hard, I'm trying to just like keep it over. Like I'm all over the place. But really, if you catch me in the gym and you're giving me a barbell and you're like, all right, let's go. It's loud and hard.
What's a place you would want to go to with your wife and you haven't been yet?
Maldives. she's wanted to go for like 10 years. So one of the little huts on the ocean.
No, again, that'd be fun. Favorite sports movie?
That's so hard. But I mean,
Got 2 or 3.
Friday Night Lights, so
Sure.
good.
The
Yep.
show or the movie?
The movie. I never watched the show.
Show's pretty good.
Never watched. I heard it was really, really good.
Yeah.
I mean, really, any sports movie. I mean, The Green Mile when I was a kid was like so cool. I was soccer at that point, like real young.
Yeah.
Yeah, Remember the Titans. Any football movie for me is like really good. Even Any Given Sunday back in the day, not a favorite, but I could throw that in there.
Al Pacino has a good speech on that, on Inches.
Oh yeah.
Favorite sport? Is it CrossFit?
I mean,
is it football? Is it all right?
So I would say football is my favorite like sport. CrossFit stopped me thinking about football. I think what's so hard about CrossFit is there is no it's a biased opinion based on some people who decide what constitutes as fitness. And if you believe fitness to be strongman, then you're going to do really poorly at the CrossFit Games because they don't think that's fitness.
Sure.
Right. So it kind of makes it tough because it's not a set standard as to what fitness is. So I love what it has done for me, and I love that. But ultimately, football. I mean, I would say.
Favorite athlete to watch, observe?
I mean, Michael Jordan.
Duh.
Like,
right. That's not
like, it's probably like a tough one, but yeah. To like say. Truly, I love seeing anybody great at anything.
Yep. Favorite book?
Rich Dad Poor Dad is a great one.
Kobayashi, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's so many good ones. He's got a cash flow quadrant book, super good. I love finance books. Atomic Habits is phenomenal. The Slight Edge. I have so many books. I read all day. Anytime I have free time, I've got a book in my ear.
One of the older classic version of books on how to invest is the Intelligent Investor by Ben Graham.
Great book.
That's like a old school one too, man. For
you do Manifesting, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich.
Yep, much more current. Favorite superhero or hero, and it doesn't have to be like Marvel. It could be,
I mean,
in any book or
honestly,
movie or story.
Superman.
Right? And favorite villain?
I'd probably say Thanos.
Okay.
I dig it.
Yep. Favorite lift?
Clean and jerk.
Mm-hmm. This is not one of the questions, but it's a bias for me. Favorite strongman lift?
Oh man, I would say I love the Stones.
Me too. That's number one for me.
I love the Stones.
What's your?
I struggled with those, so I had to work at that.
What's your heaviest all-time clean and jerk?
400.
400
even. You know, there's manhood stones over in Europe and other places, like the Husserfeld stone, right? The Denny stones. I have the Hoosier stones. So, I've had them for 7 years, 8 years, and I think they even created their own social media page.
What do they weigh?
One starts at 245, and the heaviest one is 408. They've all been harvested from Indiana. The 265 is easier than the 245. It's reddish. It's called the cardinal. It's called the cardinal because the cardinal is the state bird, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the Hoosier stones, are they like? Is there only one set of Hoosier stones?
Well, since no one else claimed any Hoosier stones, and I did 7 years ago, I just simply said I have them, and now they're mine,
They're
right?
my stones, so yes, there's only one set.
Okay, all right.
But I have leather-bound books that, just like they do over in Europe. So if you come and lift it and get it to your chest or your shoulder, you can sign the book. I signed the book, and I've been doing this. And then a lot of times over in Scotland, they'll offer a shot of whiskey. I do the same thing. You don't have to have the shot, but there's 5 different stones, and there's one Hoosier stone. That one's $3.25. And then the brand Tinsman stone is named after 2 guys that picked it up. The day I introduced it, it came right out of my backyard. It's 408 or 405, something like that.
I don't think I'm doing that one.
But if you're down in Indianapolis and you want to try one of the Hoosier stones, or other Atlas stones, If you had 10 million, what would you do?
What I'm doing now.
Favorite quote?
Oh man, there's so many good quotes.
Yep.
So many good quotes. Truth. I mean, just do it.
Probably all-time best slogan, right?
Yeah.
They keep going back to it because it
well,
works.
Yeah, really. I mean, just do it and just be you. I mean,
awesome. We said we can find you at Zeus Method. Any other places we should look for you?
Nick Urencar on Instagram. You can go to www.zeusmethod.com and check out, kind of learn more about the program. And then, there's Zeus Method online, social media. There's also, I have a Max Muscle bodybuilding program that's on Instagram. You can shoot me an email. I love getting emails, just nick@zeusmethod.com. But otherwise, I'm just kind of all over the place.
Cool.
Perfect.
Same with us. If you're looking to get a hold of us, send us questions. It's info@athlete-builder.com. Be on the lookout May 11th for the Athlete Builder Summit here in Indianapolis. We'll have different speakers on different topics. More about that in the next podcast that we're running. So, Nick, man, great time. Like I said, very generous and very, very grateful. Learned a lot. Inspired. It's hard to get motivated at almost 8 o'clock at night at the end of my day, but I felt the energy from you and the knowledge from you, and I felt the authenticity, and we had a great time. We had a great time and feel very, very blessed to have you on. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
See you next time, guys.